Ben and Luke graduated from El County Catholic High School in 2011. Left here and went off to St. Vincent College, and both majored in education. And I think they had a lot of opportunities, but they wanted to come back, actually. Luke took a job at Reynoldsville, and Ben took a job teaching here at ECC. I actually hired him. It was his first job out of college, and he just sort of shot the lights out. And then over the course of the summer, he came to me and he said, listen, I have to tell you that I'm going to be leaving you next year. And I thought, oh no, this is terrible news. He said, I'm going to the seminary. And I thought, great news, but terrible news.
My first grade teacher, her name is Mrs. Wilhelm, who is the best teacher I ever had, simply because I struggled to read. Anyone who's Christian knows that the narrative is massive. So to be a practicing Christian, you kind of need to be willing to read and read a lot, to soak it in. Because at the end of the day, reading is listening. For those who listen, they encounter the Lord. Catholic schools from the start, even though I struggled with it, taught me to listen and read. And now I read in 2 languages frequently, Spanish and English. Honestly, St. Ignatius would be the one right now that I would have to say has helped me the most. All because of a Catholic education that pushed me to his thought, his personality, which relates a lot to how I've always thought. I remember a specific moment in college in the summertime. I went to Goodwill just for fun with some buddies, and I saw a golden covered book that said John Paul II on it. All right, I'll read it. The only reason, though, I grabbed it was because I had heard his name mentioned throughout Catholic schooling. In grade school, specifically, I remember his funeral that we watched it in my theology class, which was amazing. So I grabbed it. Since then, I think I've read 20, 30 of his works, which I found at Goodwill just because it caught my eye. And I credit Catholic schools for that initial desire to just grab that book, which has introduced me to the most pivotal thinker, I think, in the 20th century. That's how simple Catholic education can just hook a person into the most authentic people who have ever lived. That's powerful, in my opinion. When I taught here, every possible vocation was in front of me. To see all that in action helped me just sort and just discern where do I fall into place. And it was pretty clear by mid-year of teaching here that I felt called to be a diocesan. One student out of nowhere after class just came up to me and said, I think it's time for you to become a priest. About 2 weeks later, I did call the vocation director.
The following year, then, he had left for seminary, and right around that same time, Luke expressed an interest in teaching theology here. We said, well, certainly we will offer Luke a job. So he came and he became our middle school theology teacher. Just like Ben had done, really did a fantastic job. The kids loved him, and lo and behold, the next summer rolls around, and I get a call from Luke saying, hey, I need to talk to you. And it was the same conversation, that he was heading up to St. Mark's for a seminary. It was sadness that he was leaving the school as a teacher, but a sense of, wow, these young men are going to make great priests.
When I was in 3rd grade, we had a priest, a Benedictine monk, Father Frank Simkevich, and he received a new placement in Savannah, Georgia. So he came down to the cafeteria, and all the students were there. You know, you got the cafeteria roar. And he came in, he said, hey, everybody, I'm leaving today. And he said, you know, I love you all. He was like the priest who played kickball with us. He was the pitcher. And I remember he made his way out the door, and pretty much all the students went back to the roar of the cafeteria, you know, the noise went back up. But I remember I didn't turn back to keep eating and talk with my friends. I watched him walk out the door. And in that moment, you know, I kind of heard God say, this is something that I want you to think about. So discernment began in 3rd grade. After I went to school to be a teacher, I started to think about it a lot more. I love teaching, but there's still something I felt driven to do, that God was asking me to do. In the DuBois School District, we had consolidation. The superintendent said to me, hey, Luke, your position will not be back. I didn't even care. In that moment, it was kind of okay, I want you to think about priesthood again. But I knew I needed one more year to teach and discern. So came to El Catholic, great place to discern, to teach within the Catholic tradition. Discernment is always appreciated and cultivated within my experience through Catholic Ed, both within Elk County Catholic school system from kindergarten all the way through to St. Vincent College, and then returning as a faculty member. So discernment is respected, and it's talked about. When my brother and I were born, our Uncle Todd was a junior at Elk County Catholic. And so what happened was there was a phone call that was given to Elk County Catholic. Like, hey Uncle Todd, you have 2 new nephews, and they're twins. And the way that they let him know was over the announcements at Elk County Catholic. That means a lot to my brother and I, because not only did Elk County Catholic know us, but they called us by name. That's a story that shows that I myself was, they knew me by name through Catholic Ed. But there's so many students, as our numbers seem to get smaller, there's some great strengths that come from that, because every student is called by name. Catholic school in general helped me to think. And I did not do the best academically. And that was a little bit of that was choice. A lot of that, though, was that I just wasn't the most gifted student. I really struggled with reading growing up. But Elk County Catholic taught me how to think. I went to St. Vincent, taught me how to think. I'm at Gannon now, taught me how to think. Now, all institutions teach someone how to think, but Catholic Ed taught me how to think with a Catholic focus. There's a lot of complexities, I think, that are going on for young people, especially who are about my age, in their mid-20s. Whatever those difficulties are that they're entering, I'm entering those difficulties with a Catholic background, a Catholic mental framework, and I'm going to Catholic sources to get Catholic answers. And I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways for me, is to seek truth through the framework of the Catholic tradition. Every morning I came to work and thought about, okay, what am I going to teach today? Well, I was teaching theology. So not only did my work ask of me to how can I teach theology as best as I can, my students were asking questions every day that I had to go home and kind of find the answer to come ready tomorrow to be able to answer. And we pray every day as a class. Before class, we prayed every day as a school with the morning announcements. We pray every day before we go down for lunch. And so when your place of work is a place of prayer, it's going to be a place of discernment. Then in athletics, we're praying as well. So the whole day is a matter of prayer. And the school day ends at about 2:25. I would stay and prep for a little bit. Students had questions, whatever it might be. And then that gave me the free time too to go over to the church for adoration. And we have 3 parishes, so that's 3 days a week of adoration. There's no better schedule for prayer than to be a Catholic school teacher, I think.